Dark clouds hang low over the small village of Sainte-Mère-Église, France, October 1943. The wind cuts through narrow cobblestone streets, carrying the distant echo of artillery from the front lines. Smoke drifts from chimneys, mingling with the scent of damp earth and wood fires. The village appears quiet, almost lifeless, yet beneath the surface, something stirs. In the center of the village, the modest bakery of Henri Dubois stands like a beacon of ordinary life. Flour dust coats the wooden counters, and the warm aroma of fresh bread fills the small, dimly lit room. Henri, a man in his early 40s with calloused hands and a methodical routine, kneads dough with the practiced ease of decades. His life has been predictable: rise before dawn, bake bread, serve the villagers, and return home as night falls. Yet, on this particular morning, an unusual sequence of sounds interrupts the rhythm. Faint tapping, like Morse code, echoing from the woods on the edge of town. At first, Henri dismisses it. The village is on edge. Strange noises are common during wartime. But the tapping persists, irregular and deliberate, carrying a pattern that prickles his instincts. He glances toward the shuttered windows and notices movement that seems out of place. A shadow slips between the ruined outbuildings at the village's edge, carrying a metallic object glinting in the gray dawn. The weight of the ordinary world collides with the extraordinary as Henri senses the presence of something, or someone, hidden, operating silently in plain sight. The tension thickens. The village is occupied territory. Rumors of German intelligence operations have circulated quietly in hushed tones among locals. Radio operators, clandestine observers, coded transmissions. These are no longer abstract notions of war. They are threats that could bring death to anyone careless enough to notice. Henri's simple act of kneading dough now carries the weight of vigilance. Every sound, every shadow becomes a question. Who is there? And what are they hiding? And then it hits him. The pattern of the tapping is not random. It is deliberate, calculated. Someone is transmitting messages, right here, on the village's edge. A hidden German radio operator, undetected by soldiers or villagers, may be orchestrating events that could alter the course of local operations. But how did such a secret survive in plain sight? And who would have the courage, or misfortune, to uncover it? The answer will not only reveal a hidden layer of wartime espionage, but will also show how an ordinary baker became an unexpected sentinel in the shadows of history. The tapping continues, subtle yet insistent, cutting through the morning fog like a secret heartbeat. Henri Dubois stops kneading, his hands frozen mid-motion, as a chilling thought takes hold. Someone in his village is transmitting clandestine messages. In occupied France, such operations are forbidden, punishable by immediate execution. Yet whoever is behind it moves with a precision that suggests training, discipline, and a calculated intent. The question that emerges is both simple and confounding. How could a German radio operator operate undetected in a village so small, so exposed, without drawing attention from either local villagers or occupying troops? Intelligence during World War II was a delicate game. The Germans relied heavily on small, hidden transmitters to coordinate troop movements, air raids, and supply lines. Even a single undetected operator could influence operations far beyond a single village, yet the risk of discovery was immense. Henri's mind races. Could this be a remnant of an abandoned Wehrmacht communications network? Or perhaps part of a larger network connecting villages and towns across Normandy? The more he listens, the more he realizes that this is not an accidental oversight. Someone has created a pocket of secrecy within plain sight, exploiting the complacency of ordinary life. Each faint tapping is a thread in a web of espionage, a thread that, if pulled, could unravel a carefully concealed operation. Historians have documented countless instances where civilian observation altered the course of intelligence work. Local farmers, postal workers, and shopkeepers often witnessed seemingly innocuous events: a glint of metal, an unfamiliar figure, a strange sound, which, in retrospect, became crucial pieces of wartime intelligence. Henri now faces the same challenge. How can a man of ordinary life discern the extraordinary without endangering himself or his neighbors? And yet, the deeper mystery persists. What exactly is being communicated, and to whom? German intelligence depended on highly trained operators to maintain secure lines across Europe, yet even the most disciplined networks were vulnerable to discovery by sharp-eyed civilians. Henri's growing suspicion becomes a puzzle. Deciphering the presence of a hidden operator requires not only courage, but methodical observation, patience, and a subtle understanding of wartime behaviors. The tension is compounded by the knowledge that every action carries weighty consequences. One misstep, a word spoken too loudly, a glance in the wrong direction, could expose the operator prematurely, or worse, implicate the observer. The stakes are monumental. Uncovering this secret could protect lives, save strategic positions, and prevent crucial intelligence from falling into enemy hands. Thus, the story pivots around a single, compelling question. How did a village baker, untrained in espionage, detect and ultimately reveal a hidden German radio operator operating undisturbed amidst the shadows of occupied France? This is a mystery that will unravel in the following sections, blending ordinary life with extraordinary courage and demonstrating how even the smallest observations could ripple across the vast canvas of World War II operations. Sainte-Mère-Église, a small village in Normandy, sits at the crossroads of history and geography. Narrow cobblestone streets wind between tightly clustered houses with steep slate roofs, their weathered facades bearing the scars of both time and war. Smoke curls from chimneys, mingling with the crisp October air, carrying the earthy aroma of wet soil and wood fires. For most of its inhabitants, life under German occupation is measured, cautious, and often monotonous, punctuated by the distant hum of military vehicles and the occasional roar of artillery from the front. At the heart of this village is Henri Dubois, the baker. Henri is a man of habit and routine. He rises before dawn to knead dough, his hands expertly coaxing loaves into life. His bakery is modest, with worn wooden counters and iron ovens that still retain the heat of decades. Flour dust lingers in sunbeams that filter through narrow windows, creating a haze that seems to capture the stillness of village life. Henri knows each of his neighbors by sight, gesture, and the sound of their footsteps. Yet, despite his familiarity with the community, he remains an ordinary man, unaware that the course of his life is about to intersect with extraordinary events. Henri's interactions are simple, but revealing. He exchanges greetings with the local grocer, nods to children playing in the streets, and occasionally chats with soldiers stationed nearby, all the while maintaining an awareness that any misstep could draw unwanted attention. Villagers whisper quietly about rumors, strange figures moving in the night, unexplained disappearances, and the faint signals of radio equipment carried discreetly through the fields. Most dismiss these as the murmurs of fearful minds, but Henri's instincts are sharper than most. The village itself is strategically significant, though small, positioned near communication lines and roads frequently used by German patrols. Its buildings, ancient and densely packed, create shadows and hidden corners, perfect for clandestine operations. Henri's bakery, central and trusted, becomes both a vantage point and a sanctuary, allowing him to observe the ebb and flow of daily life while remaining ostensibly inconspicuous. As Henri goes about his morning, he notices subtle irregularities, unfamiliar footsteps echoing on cobblestones, glimpses of figures moving too deliberately, and the occasional glint of metal where it shouldn't be. These observations, seemingly mundane, are the first threads of intelligence that hint at the hidden radio operator. Henri's ordinary life, defined by flour, ovens, and bread, is on the brink of transformation. He is about to move from silent observer to active participant in uncovering a secret that could have ramifications far beyond Sainte-Mère-Église. The scene is set, a village under occupation, a baker whose life is rooted in routine, and an invisible threat transmitting from the shadows. Henri, armed only with curiosity and an unshakable sense of awareness, will soon embark on a journey that merges the ordinary with the extraordinary, placing him at the heart of a covert wartime operation that few would ever know existed. In the quiet mornings of Sainte-Mère-Église, subtle disturbances begin to ripple through the village. Henri notices things that most would overlook: shutters that remain closed even in daylight, footprints leading to seemingly empty fields, and a soft, intermittent clicking sound that seems to vanish whenever someone approaches. At first, he dismisses these anomalies as figments of his imagination, yet an unease slowly takes hold. The baker starts observing patterns. Every Tuesday evening, a man in a dark uniform arrives at the edge of the village, carrying a heavy leather satchel, moving quickly along the back streets before disappearing into the shadows. No one speaks to him. The villagers pretend not to notice. Yet Henri senses a deliberate rhythm in his movements, a purpose that is too precise to be ordinary. The timing coincides with the arrival of German military trucks on the main road, a detail that Henri cannot ignore. Soon, other peculiarities arise. A flicker of light through a second-story window, always at the same hour, or the faint odor of oil and machinery drifting from an abandoned barn. Letters occasionally slide beneath the baker's door, unsigned, cryptic, and hurriedly written in German. Though Henri cannot read them, the neatness of the script and the urgency of the wording hint at disciplined training. It is clear someone is operating under the watchful eyes of the occupying forces and the unsuspecting villagers. Henri quietly begins noting these occurrences in a small, worn notebook. He sketches maps of the streets, marks the locations of unusual activity, and records the times of each event. His intuition tells him that these are not random acts, but a carefully concealed operation. Through his observations, patterns emerge: the timing of the signals, the routes of the mysterious visitor, and the subtle adjustments in behavior of the surrounding villagers, likely coerced into silence. Despite the danger, Henri continues his daily routine, using his bakery as a vantage point. From behind the counter, he watches the movement of soldiers and the unknown figure. The ordinary cadence of village life, the clatter of bread trays, the smell of yeast and flour, the chatter of customers, masks a hidden current of espionage. Henri realizes that uncovering this secret will require patience, vigilance, and the courage to act without exposing himself prematurely. The initial suspicious activities set the stage for a larger revelation. Each small clue, a shadowy figure, a coded knock, a strange light, represents a piece of a puzzle that has remained hidden from the German command and the Allied forces alike. Henri, the ordinary village baker, is slowly assembling the evidence that will expose a covert radio operator whose transmissions could influence military decisions far beyond the village boundaries. The tension builds. Every observation is a potential breakthrough, every misstep a potential disaster. Sainte-Mère-Église, serene on the surface, hides a secret network, and Henri is poised at the threshold between ignorance and discovery. The ordinary world of bread and flour is giving way to a landscape of covert operations, coded messages, and the high stakes of wartime intelligence. Henri's observations begin to coalesce into a pattern. He notices that every delivery of German rations to the village coincides with the appearance of the mysterious visitor. Certain crates, marked with symbols that seem nonsensical to an untrained eye, are always carried to the same abandoned barn at the village outskirts. Curiosity overcomes caution. Henri realizes that these deliveries are more than routine supply runs. One evening, under the cover of twilight, Henri ventures closer to the barn. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and engine oil, and the faint hum of machinery is audible from inside. He glimpses a man hunched over a small device, wires trailing to a crude antenna outside the window. The man is carefully tuning the equipment, occasionally scribbling notes in a logbook. Henri cannot make out the words, but the precision of the actions is unmistakable. This is no ordinary villager at work. This is a trained radio operator. Back at the bakery, Henri begins compiling the evidence. He maps the routes, records the timings, and documents the figures moving in and out of the barn. A coded pattern emerges. The operator is transmitting messages at fixed intervals, often late at night when the village is silent. Henri recalls snippets of conversations overheard among German soldiers, mentions of intercepted Allied signals and unusual radio activity. He pieces together that these clandestine transmissions could be feeding critical intelligence to higher command, potentially altering the outcomes of regional operations. Henri's investigation is methodical. Using scraps of paper and charcoal from the bakery, he sketches diagrams of the antenna setup, noting the height, angle, and surrounding obstructions. He cross-references these with reports from German patrols he overhears. Every detail, the specific type of radio equipment, the frequency of transmissions, the number of personnel involved, is catalogued meticulously. Even small anomalies, such as a slightly misplaced window shutter or an open vent, are noted. They may conceal additional channels or hidden compartments. The baker begins sharing subtle hints with trusted villagers, a word here, a gesture there. These civilians, though cautious, start observing the movements themselves, confirming Henri's suspicions. They report unusual deliveries and hidden pouches tucked inside crates. Letters with cryptic markings appear intermittently, and Henri manages to decipher some of the code using simple substitution techniques he recalls from pre-war schooling. Slowly, a picture emerges, a hidden German radio operation, sophisticated yet vulnerable, right in the heart of Sainte-Mère-Église. Each discovery brings increased risk. Henri must balance the need for evidence with the constant threat of detection. A single misstep, a creaking floorboard, a misinterpreted gesture could expose him and the villagers to severe consequences. Yet his diligence begins to pay off. The clues accumulate, forming a coherent narrative of espionage and covert communication. Henri is no longer just a baker. He has become an impromptu intelligence operative, silently charting the hidden currents of war that flow beneath the surface of his quiet village. The investigation sets the stage for the approaching climax. Every mapped route, decoded message, and observed pattern brings Henri closer to uncovering the radio operator. The seemingly ordinary village is now the setting for extraordinary clandestine activity, and the ordinary baker stands at the intersection of discovery and danger. As Henri's observations intensify, so does the risk of exposure. The German patrols in Sainte-Mère-Église have become more vigilant. Soldiers linger longer at checkpoints, and the clatter of boots on cobblestone streets echoes more frequently through the village. Henri notices unfamiliar faces among the garrison, men who seem to be watching the villagers more closely than before. The bakery, once a quiet hub of daily life, now feels like a potential trap. Every customer could be an informant. One evening, while Henri examines a newly delivered crate, a faint whistle cuts through the night air, The operator inside the barn appears alert, adjusting the antenna and scanning the surroundings. Henri freezes behind a hedgerow, heart pounding, as a German officer approaches the barn with 2 soldiers. The men inspect the area meticulously, noting details that Henri had considered insignificant: footprints, broken twigs, and the slightly ajar barn door. Pause. Henri realizes that the secrecy he has relied on is precarious. One wrong move could unravel everything. The tension escalates further when a local villager, unaware of Henri's investigation, inadvertently mentions seeing a strange light in the barn at night. Rumors begin circulating, and German officers grow suspicious of increased civilian activity near the outskirts. Henri scrambles to cover tracks, moving notes and sketches to hidden compartments in his bakery. The bakery's warm aroma of fresh bread now masks the anxiety and urgency of covert operations. Each creaking floorboard or squeaking door seems amplified, as though the war itself is listening. Meanwhile, intercepted transmissions indicate that higher German command is coordinating movements based on the messages sent from the barn. Henri deduces that the radio operator's intelligence could be directly affecting troop deployments, supply lines, and even imminent attacks. The stakes are immense. Any misstep could endanger not only himself, but the entire village, turning civilians into collateral damage. The weight of responsibility presses heavily on Henri's shoulders, forcing him to act with extreme caution. A near discovery intensifies the suspense. One night, a German soldier follows a trail that leads perilously close to Henri's hiding spot. Using shadows and cover, Henri remains undetected, but witnesses the officer's curiosity turning into suspicion. The soldier pauses, scanning the darkness with a flashlight, before moving on. Henri's pulse races, and he realizes the window for error is shrinking. The operator's mission, the intercepted transmissions, and Henri's own evidence are all under threat. Henri begins coordinating with a few trusted villagers, creating signals and diversions to distract the German patrols. They time their movements carefully, exchanging coded phrases that go unnoticed by outsiders. The village becomes a chessboard, with each civilian movement carefully calculated against the advancing German gaze. The danger is constant, but so is the urgency to uncover the full truth. Every day that passes without exposure brings Henri closer to a breakthrough, yet every night underscores the fragility of secrecy. The operator's hidden activity, the intercepted communications, and Henri's meticulous documentation converge toward an inevitable revelation. The tension tightens like a drawn bow, setting the stage for the ultimate discovery that will define the course of this hidden chapter of WW2. After weeks of careful observation, Henri finally uncovers the full extent of the operation hidden within the barn. One foggy morning, he slips past the increased German patrols and enters the barn with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. Inside, the radio operator is hunched over a compact but complex radio transmitter, wires snaking across the floor, and ciphered messages scattered on a wooden table. Henri recognizes the significance immediately. This is a fully functioning communication post, transmitting critical intelligence directly to German command. Henri observes the operator sending coded messages, unaware that Henri has witnessed the entire process. The operator's efficiency is remarkable, indicating prior military training, while the surrounding documents reveal detailed troop movements, supply schedules, and defensive strategies. Henri notes the meticulous organization and the small but crucial details, maps with annotations, hand-drawn symbols, and encrypted correspondence, all pointing to high-level coordination that could have significant implications for the local Allied forces. Suddenly, a misstep. Henri accidentally knocks over a tin container. The clatter echoes loudly in the quiet barn. The operator stiffens, hands reaching instinctively toward his weapons. Henri freezes, heart pounding, realizing that exposure is imminent. Outside, the rhythmic clatter of approaching boots confirms the German patrol's proximity. Every second feels amplified. The tension is unbearable as Henri silently prays the operator remains unaware. At that moment, Henri notices a partially open ventilation hatch leading to the roof. Acting quickly, he slips the documents into his coat and moves toward the exit, carefully avoiding the operator's line of sight. Once outside, he ducks behind a haystack, witnessing the operator finally detect the disturbance. The operator's alarmed movements signal the first breach of secrecy in weeks. Henri's quick thinking and knowledge of the barn's layout allow him to escape, but he now carries the evidence that will reveal the hidden operation. The climax peaks when Henri presents the collected information to the local resistance group. The decrypted messages and intercepted transmissions reveal a larger network of espionage and intelligence gathering within occupied France, proving that the small village played a pivotal role in the intelligence war. The group realizes the magnitude of what Henri uncovered. The operator's transmissions were directly influencing German troop deployments, and had Henri not intervened, the consequences could have been catastrophic for Allied operations in Normandy. Henri's careful planning, courage, and meticulous documentation transformed the village bakery into the epicenter of a critical intelligence breakthrough. The discovery underscores not only the operator's hidden presence, but also the vital role of ordinary civilians in intelligence gathering during WWII. This revelation links the village's seemingly ordinary life to the larger narrative of the war, demonstrating how small, unnoticed actions could shift military outcomes. The convergence of patience, observation, and bravery culminates in this defining moment. Henri's actions turn suspense into clarity, danger into revelation, and mystery into a historically verified account, marking the barn and its hidden radio operator as a crucial, albeit secretive, node in the wartime intelligence network. The documents and intelligence that Henri brought to the resistance had immediate and far-reaching implications. Allied intelligence officers analyzed the intercepted communications and discovered critical information regarding German troop placements, supply lines, and upcoming operations. The radio operator had been transmitting precise troop movements, particularly in preparation for defensive measures against the anticipated Allied invasion of Normandy. These insights provided crucial advantages for planning local sabotage missions and informing broader operational strategies. Historians later noted that the intelligence gathered in this small French village contributed indirectly to the success of larger Allied campaigns. The coded messages revealed logistical vulnerabilities, allowing resistance networks to coordinate targeted disruptions of railways, communication lines, and supply depots. These actions, while small in isolation, collectively weakened German defensive capabilities. The village's role exemplifies how localized intelligence operations could influence strategic outcomes on the battlefield, bridging the gap between ordinary civilians and the vast machinery of war. The operation's exposure also had a significant psychological impact. For German command, the detection and neutralization of an Allied spy network in an occupied village would have been considered a breach of operational security. Conversely, for the Allies and local resistance, the success of Henri's discovery reinforced the critical importance of human intelligence, agents on the ground who could identify and act upon threats invisible to conventional reconnaissance. It demonstrated that victory in WW2 was not solely determined by large-scale military engagements, but also by small covert operations, undertaken by ordinary individuals. Pause. Additionally, the incident highlighted the role of non-combatants in wartime intelligence. Henri, a baker by trade, exemplified how civilian knowledge, observation skills, and courage could have strategic consequences. His actions provided a tangible example of citizen involvement in the resistance, showing that critical contributions to the war effort could emerge outside the battlefield. This case has since been referenced in historical analyses of espionage in occupied France, illustrating how seemingly modest discoveries could alter operational planning and influence the broader course of the war. The discovery also sheds light on the efficiency and scope of German intelligence operations during the occupation. The presence of a skilled radio operator, fully equipped and systematically sending coded reports, underscores the meticulous nature of German espionage efforts. While these operations were sophisticated, Henri's intervention demonstrates the vulnerabilities inherent in even the most disciplined networks. The incident reinforces the historical lesson that intelligence, no matter how well guarded, remains susceptible to observation, human error, and local knowledge. In retrospect, this event underscores a key facet of what history: the interdependence between ordinary civilians and formal military intelligence. The village bakery, initially unremarkable, became a hub of critical information transfer. Henri's role exemplifies the convergence of vigilance, courage, and local knowledge with strategic military objectives, showing how individual action could ripple outward to affect national and international outcomes. The intelligence gathered not only influenced immediate tactical decisions, but also enriched historical understanding of occupation, resistance, and the human dimension of wartime espionage. After the discovery, life in the village slowly returned to a tense semblance of normalcy. The German occupation forces, unaware that their radio operators' transmissions had been compromised, continued their routines, but the local resistance leveraged the intelligence Henri had provided to execute targeted operations. Supply lines were subtly disrupted, railway tracks sabotaged, and German patrols misdirected, demonstrating the practical impact of one ordinary civilian's vigilance. Henri returned to his bakery, resuming daily tasks, yet his life, and the village itself, had been forever altered by the secret he had uncovered. In the months that followed, Allied intelligence debriefings confirmed the significance of the intercepted communications. The decrypted messages revealed operational weaknesses that would inform planning for larger campaigns, including preparations for the D-Day landings in Normandy. While Henri's involvement remained largely unknown to the outside world at the time, the historical record now recognizes his contribution as a critical link in the network of civilian-assisted intelligence. His actions exemplify the understated yet essential role of non-combatants in wartime espionage, where courage and attentiveness could influence strategic outcomes. The village's legacy became one of quiet heroism. Henri's story, documented through testimonies, diaries, and military records, illustrates the often overlooked dimension of civilian involvement during WW2. Post-war accounts from resistance members acknowledge the baker's pivotal role, highlighting the courage and resourcefulness required to navigate the dangers of occupation. Local archives preserved maps, notes, and recovered documents from the operation, offering historians invaluable insights into the dynamics of espionage at the grassroots level. These records reinforce the narrative that intelligence gathering was not confined to major urban centers or formal military installations, but extended into the daily lives of ordinary people. Moreover, the broader historical significance of the discovery lies in its demonstration of human agency in war. The event underscores how meticulous observation, persistence, and courage could disrupt enemy operations and contribute to larger military successes. Henri's actions also illuminate the moral complexities faced by civilians in occupied territories, balancing survival with resistance, discretion with the need to act, and ordinary life with extraordinary responsibility. The village itself became a symbol of these dilemmas, its history interwoven with the larger tapestry of wartime espionage. Today, Henri's story is cited in academic studies of intelligence and resistance during WW2. The hidden radio operators network, once a closely guarded secret, now serves as a case study in how localized intelligence could shape strategic outcomes. Memorials, museum exhibits, and historical publications honor not only the resistance fighters, but also the civilians, like Henri, whose vigilance ensured that critical information reached Allied hands. The village bakery, once a simple establishment, has become a touchstone for understanding the intersection of ordinary life and global conflict, symbolizing the quiet yet decisive contributions of civilians to the Allied war effort. Through the lens of this story, the legacy of WW2 espionage becomes tangible. Ordinary individuals, through courage, observation, and decisive action, could influence the course of history. Henri's discovery, preserved in documents and oral histories, continues to inform our understanding of the human dimension of war, offering lessons in vigilance, bravery, and the power of one person to affect monumental events.